Welcome to Deadlock the Movie. This video contains almost every patch for Deadlock in 2024, starting way back from July, containing things you may not have even seen with your own eyes in-game. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky. You might know me from my Counter-Strike Patch Notice videos, but from now on, I'll be expanding into Deadlock. Hero changes. Up first and foremost then, let's have a look at what's changed to the heroes in the 4th of July update for Deadlock. Starting off with Abrams, Seismic Impact at tier 3 now gains 100 extra max HP and 15% fire rate per enemy hero you hit for 25 seconds. Everyone's favourite junk golem Bebop has undergone a slight nerf to his HP regen. Base HP regen has been reduced from 2 to 1, but he's been majorly buffed with 10 extra meters being added to his Hyper Beam cast range, making him go full Gyarados. Meanwhile, Grey Talon has received a buff to his ultimate, making it so it now grants +4 permanent spirit power for every hero that is killed by it. On top of that, Valve have fixed an issue where Charge Shot would not pierce if it collided with a mini turret. Meanwhile, for Haze, rank 1 of her Sleep Dagger will no longer increase its duration by an extra second, it will instead remove 1 stamina. Smoke Bomb has also undergone quite a few changes, as you can see on screen here, with Lifesteal now being at 30% for tier 3. For everyone's favourite smoker, Infernus, Flame Dash DPS has been increased from 0.4 seconds to 1 second. That's going to be the dot effect that's left on the floor after he uses his sprint, meaning you have slightly longer to deal damage to troopers or unsuspecting heroes. Ivy mains Rejoice, Watcher's Covenant has received the buff that will now allow you to select who you want to target even after casting it on someone. As for the big snowman, Kelvin, at tier 3 his ice path will now linger for an additional 6 seconds, giving you some extra time to rotate and quickly get your teammates out of dodge. Frost grenades will now land where they're indicated to be even if you quickly move, meaning dashing or jumping. Everyone's favourite arsehole, Jacob Lash, has had his Death Slam increased by 0.1 second to lock on. Here you can see McGinnis in her natural habitat, split pushing, playing the objective. Her mini turrets have undergone quite a few changes in the 4th of July update, reducing the cooldown very slightly and some damage reduction changes. While Burrowed Moe and Krill will now have the same casting rules applied as when unburrowed, i.e. he can cast items and use Scorn. He's also had his base HP per boon reduced very slightly. Here's a shocker for you. No, literally. Static Charge has been updated on 7 so that it now has Spirit scaling, meaning that it will increase by 0.1 with Spirit. So be prepared for longer range stuns. Meanwhile, for Vindicta, her flight cooldown has been reduced from 50 seconds to 45 seconds. I guess she isn't with Ryanair. The up and down speed is also slightly improved. Warden's Binding Word will now drain 1 stamina from the target on cast, making attempted getaways slightly more awkward. For Wraith, Project Mind at tier 3 now has a reduced cooldown by 5 seconds, down from 35 to 30. Item changes. There's been quite a few major item overhauls inside of the 4th of July update, and this is one of them. Reactive Barrier will now proc on displacement abilities, meaning hooks, paradoxical sweep, and uppercut. It could be really effective now. Decay also now seems to be a viable replacement for toxic bullets on your tank. Improved Burst no longer applies a 50% slow, however it does grant you 100% spirit shield and 12% weapon damage. Quicksilver Reload has been massively nerfed, its recharge time is up from 5 seconds to 12. Diviner's Kevlar looks to have received the gigantic buff, increasing its buff duration from 10 seconds to 12 and granting you a 700 health spirit shield and bullet resist shield. Medic bullets have been renamed, so don't panic if you can't find them. They're now called Restorative Shot. Pour one out for my fellow Wraith mains out there, as Intensifying Magazine will no longer grant you 30% increased ammo, it'll instead be 25. And Lucky Shot? I wouldn't say it's so lucky anymore. It no longer provides you with that massive increase in weapon damage, as there is no 20% buff. Map changes. It feels like the streets have undergone a huge amount of changes in the 4th of July update. As you can see on screen here, the warehouse geometry has been changed drastically. There's new stairways and connecting pathways for the inner lanes. The doorways with mob farms have been offset, so it's harder to see people inside or catch them. You've also got new teleport rooms on either side of the map, near the church and the police station, giving you 2 quick ways to TP away in a hurry. They've also moved the guardian cover in the inner lanes to be more central and provide protection if you're looking for a quick getaway mid-fight, alongside a lot of small details. So get out there and get looking around what they've done.
Guardians and shrines.
For me, this is probably the biggest 2 changes inside of the patch. Base Guardians and Shrines now have a 40% bullet resistance, and they lose 20% for each enemy hero that's nearby, down to a minimum of 0. But when they don't take damage for 60 seconds, they begin regenerating 4% of their max HP per second. Troopers have had a reduction of 25% to their damage when attacking another trooper, and their spawn rates are now consistent throughout the entire game. Let's talk about boxes then. Breakables no longer come pre-placed on the map, and instead will spawn in at the 3-minute mark when they begin rolling for drops. They also now use pseudo-random rolls, making streaks of success or failure less likely. Golden statues now have dynamic weighting on them based on what was already dropped, and after the 25-minute mark, their drops will be slightly stronger. Bullet fall off is now 25 meters.
General changes.
Valve have added 2 new server regions in both Asia and South America, expanding the player pool for Deadlock. They also added the damage report feature that'll show off incoming and outgoing damage. This is really cool. Play around with this next time you go to the shop when you're in lane. It will show you stats based on damage you've dealt or received from other players. It will give you a breakdown that you can change from 30 seconds, a minute, or since your last respawn, and visually see how you're dealing or taking damage. There was also some HUD changes in the update. Some people seem to like it, some people not so much, but the top bar of the UI has been overhauled, reworked for visibility and to attempt to make it a bit smaller. There was also changes to replays. You now have a free cursor mode when pressing the J key as a default bind. Minimap was also upgraded with a few new features. When someone perishes, you'll see an X where they died for 5 seconds and can see both the spawn and delivery location for the soul urn. Default item guides have been made simpler and easier to understand for newer players so that they can get a better experience when getting to grips with Deadlock. Always playing with friends? Well, don't worry. Deadlock will now prioritize putting people that have been queued together in the same lane, so you can happily feed together. There was also some tweaks made to collecting soul sound effects. Denying or confirming a soul will have the same universal sound effect. However, being denied a soul by an opponent now has a unique sound. The effect of all of your cooldowns rapidly resetting on and off has now been fixed when collecting a soul urn. A bug with Spectral Wall for McGinnis where it wouldn't spawn if map geometry was awkward has now been resolved. You can happily throw out your Spectral Walls wherever you want. A problem with bullets clipping through 2 mobs and dealing damage to both of them when they were close together has been fixed. The Rejuvenator has been given some new sound effects. Have a listen. The Duke closets around the map have been given a bit of a visual overhaul. There's now ghostly spirits that will indicate where the dead ends are. They're all quite unique and they have red signs above the entryways, giving you even more of a reason to not want to go into these ghastly doorways. There's been some more sound effect changes. Here's what the changes to Wraith sound like.
Miscellaneous changes.
Firstly, let's talk about the soul urn, as it's had quite a lot of changes. We're back to just having one of them on the map with its original soul count, not 2 of them anymore. That is the new drop-off location. You get bonus souls for delivering the soul urn now, incentivizing you to do it. Because it spawns so far away from the lunar location though, the movement slow has been removed and the pickup time has been reduced, meaning that sprinting from one side to the other isn't as bad.
Power-up changes.
Lastly, let's talk about power-ups then, as Valve have completely reworked how they operate. There's no longer 6 locations, instead only 2 on opposite ends of the map, and the different power-up types have been overhauled. They've gone down from 6 to just 4, being gun, survival, casting, and movement. Alongside that, they've also increased the effectiveness of all of these power-ups. But that is it for your patch notice. I've been your host, Jacky Esports. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's the first of many, so please subscribe and let me know what you think on the Discord. Thursday, another Deadlock update. Welcome back to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky. Let's get into the update that's just been released on the 11th of July. Up first, let's take a look at the general changes and see what Valve have cooked up this week. Testing times have changed. They'll now start 1 hour earlier for all regions. That's more time to Deadlock. And Europe has been split up into 2 regions based on language. The shop has also had a few changes in regards to item searching. It's been improved and the damage report has had a couple of adjustments made to it alongside that as well. Visibility changes have also occurred inside of this patch, with the flashing effect that happens when you shoot a hero now being reduced. There's a couple of other visual tweaks, so let's get into those as well. Affliction, Pocket's ultimate, has been given a bit more green. As you can see, a nice viscous goop like the Nickelodeon's Choice Awards will be left behind when he now uses his ultimate. Restorative Shot has also had a visual tweak made to its bullet and healing effect. Here's the before and after. I can't see much of a difference myself, but Valve do say they've made some adjustments here. It's in the notes, so it must be real. Phantom Strike, however, visually has changed. It now has a shield effect and a bit more pizzazz to it when leaping towards your enemies and giving them a sucker punch. Restorative Locket has not really changed too much at all, has it? They say that they've adjusted the visuals, but I can't notice anything there either. For sound effect changes, there's been adjustments made to Charge Shot, Souls, Power-Ups, Breakables, and a sound that will now play when going to the Hero Select screen. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's patch for me, the map updates. This is huge. The base and spawn area where your patrons are have been completely overhauled in tonight's update. They've decided to take a vastly different approach to what has been quite consistent throughout the majority of the Deadlock playtest so far, with this flat second phase area for your patron when it enters its weakened state. As you can see on screen, this is how it looked in the 4th of July update. Now this is how it looks in the 11th of July patch. There is a huge overhaul made to the area. It's now completely sunken into the ground with a lower level battle sort of arena for you to fight within. And they've made some changes to how quickly you can get out from the spawn as well. You can see these drop down tunnels that have now been added. So you can very quickly run in a straight line, get straight back into the fight. You no longer have to go through the choke points on either side when respawning at your base. Actually a really cool change that Valve have made here, and it'll be intriguing to see how this affects the timings of fights and skirmishes when it feels like your patron's going to be destroyed before you can get back into the clash. Could be a nice adjustment here. On the visual side again, they've made some changes to the item signs that were around the map. Most notably, you'll remember the one with the little demon in a jar called Contain. Instead, those have been removed and you've now got new item signs based on some of the actual buyable items that you can get from the Curiosity shop. Tesla bullets, basic magazine, and a couple others as well. Now, Factory Street has had its awkward road widened because they couldn't get any of the lorries out when delivering their factory materials. Maybe steel. I think it's a steel place. Maybe that's what it is. Who really knows? But either way, they've widened the road. It's a bit bigger now. More of a gameplay map update, they've added lots of new juke closets around the map, giving you multiple opportunities to duck in, find some cover, pop off an ability or a heal at various levels of elevation. Some of them have new balconies and a few of them are even on top of roofs, opening up many more gameplay opportunities. Down low though, we've seen some changes to the underground tunnels. They've added new signs underground, letting you know where you're going so you don't get lost and accidentally get on the district line. The underground path has also been completely overhauled, reducing its length and zigzag effect that it had when going down from the Curiosity Shop to the underground area. Valve have also added more lore in the form of news audio that plays at any of the Fortune news booths. Check that out in game for yourself, don't want to spoil that. And they've replaced the arrows that would be at mid-temple, you can see on screen here. I guess they were just placeholders. Personally, I thought that they looked okay, but they have been removed and instead replaced with the classic signage that we've seen across Deadlock's map, with Orchard Boulevard and the other one for the blue side. So you've got those to work with now if you need to quickly make a decision on where you have to go when sprinting from mid-temple. Don't look for the arrows, look for the signs. Solern has also had a couple of changes to it, actually quite a few nice ones in this patch if I'm honest. The HUD will now indicate that the depositor will gain plus 25% souls and plus 1 AP for completing the task, quite a nice reward there. Spectator changes have come in and there's been a few quality of life additions. You can now click on the profile images at the top of the screen. Overall, just a few nice tweaks for anyone that's been enjoying the use of the replay features, so play around with that as well to get a hang of it. Hero changes. Now this is the big one. Abrams has had a massive set of buffs. His shoulder charge has been given increased distance, but it's this last adjustment at tier 3 that's the real sleeper buff. When you bump into people now, you'll get increased lifesteal and damage on your bullets, but this stacks per bullet really quite strong. Definitely give Abrams a go after tonight's update. Dynamo has had a more simple tweak made where he can now have a little bit more range when repositioning his teammates or repositioning himself with his quantum entanglement. So not too much of a crazy adjustment there, just one for the Dynamo mains that might be thinking they want to go a little bit further with their teleport. Grey Talon has also had a few tweaks. Up first is his rain of arrows, and preceding that, they've also decided to make some overhauls to Guided Owl. They've gone in on the old Guided Owl, so yeah, play around with that as it has actually changed quite a bit in terms of the overall statistics of the ultimate. Ivy continues to get love, patch to patch as well, and Watcher's Covenant is still being tweaked. Everyone's favourite arsehole again, Jacob Lash, has also received some slight adjustments to not only his ultimate this time, but ground strike as well. You can see on screen the changes for both Death Slam and ground strike. McGuinness. Now, if you were frustrated by the turrets, you've seen over the past few patches, Valve have been nerfing her slowly, and her mini turrets now have a reduced lifespan. Not as bad as the Mayfly, but they will only stay alive for 30 seconds rather than 40. What feels like some nice minor adjustments for Mo and Krill inside of this patch, just making some adjustments to his Sandblast, and that's kind of it really, just a few tweaks here and there. Paradox has also received the same treatment that a lot of heroes have been receiving. This was also done to Ivy in this patch as well, where use of the grenades would lag if you would jump or sprint with fast velocity, and they would land in an incorrect location. So instead now it's been made more consistent and should always land where it's supposed to, where it's indicated to. Her kinetic carbine has also been reduced slightly in terms of its range capability. And for Pocket, his enchanted satchel duration has gone up from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. And his tier 3 has now been changed to a 2.5 second disarm. With 7, your electric light bulb Well, he's been adjusted slightly again with his static charge. The range scaling has been reduced slightly from what it was in the previous patch at 0.1 to now 0.07, and static charge's base radius has been reduced from 8 meters to 5 as well, so it's not as easy to get those stuns off as it was last patch. But his tier 2 will give you a plus 5 meter radius. The Sniper Vindicta has also had a few changes. Her Crow Familiar duration, based off Spirit Power scaling, has again been reduced, this time from 0.07 to 0.05. Gun damage growth has been increased, however, from 0.7 up to 0.85. With Warden, his reload time no longer scales with Spirit Power, and he now innately gains additive fire rate from Spirit Power. So no more reload buff, but it's the damage that goes up. Yamato's Shadow Transformation incoming damage reduction has been reduced from 70% to 55%, and her transformation changed from a 70% debuff reduction to the same buff as Unstoppable. As for Haze, it's again a minor nerf, very small. Ammo scaling with Spirit Power has been reduced from 0.6 to 0.5. Item changes then. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Debuff Reducer is now a tier 2 item, and this has been done due to the addition of Debuff Remover that will upgrade from Debuff Reducer. You'll notice this is a bit of a trend that Valve are doing in this patch. They seem to be going for the idea of combining more items and forcing you to build around the idea of combinable items rather than stacking lower cost items in the 1.2k region, which I actually think is a positive change. You can see some of the item cards on screen here for the notable items that I've picked out. One of them in the orange category is Titanic Magazine. Reload penalty has been removed on that bad boy, I assume following the nerfs to Quicksilver Reload. Active Reload, however, has had some huge quality of life overhauls. It now ignores input for the first few seconds when you go into reloading, so there's no messing up your reload timing on Active Reload. Silencer also is now a combinable item that's more expensive and requires you to buy slowing bullets. The range and cooldown has been buffed on Mystic Reverb as well, and it looks like you might want to start picking that one up a little bit more following tonight's update. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the miscellaneous changes. Soulern had a few more tweaks inside of this category, so we can get into it in greater detail. An AP increase and a bounty increase for the person that is risky enough to go for the Soulern, and that's because of this. You'll now be silenced when picking up the Soulern, but with increased sprint, so incentivizing you to basically be a high-speed runner and take it across the map, rather than a slower, stagnant target. Pretty cool, eh? Power-ups have also had a few tweaks, with duration being increased. Movement power-ups specifically will now grant you extra stamina, and a bug has been fixed where it wasn't replenishing your stamina bar on pickup. It shouldn't do that anymore. For the golden icons, level 2 bonuses, spawn time has been reduced from 25 to 20 minutes, and the effects have been slightly buffed on a few of the categories. Weapon changes then. Now this one affects all of the heroes. Bullet fall off now begins at 22 meters. This is down from 27 before the 4th and 25 on the 4th. Global base ammo has been increased by 5% for all heroes, barring Wraith and Haze. No love for my two mains, unfortunate. But it kind of makes sense in the grand scheme of things. They've also increased the duration of zipline boost. It's up from 25 seconds to 32 seconds, giving you a little bit more time to quickly dip back to base, get a heal in, buy an item, and get back in lane, especially in late game, could be very handy. Base Guardians have had their health increased by 10%. Well, I say base Guardians, all Guardians have had their health increased by 10%. Another change that I quite like. Base respawn times are up as well, from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, whereas late game respawn times are unaffected. And that's it for your patch notice. These are all of the major tweaks and changes that have happened inside of the 11th of July Deadlock update. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I've been your host, Jacky. Drop me a follow on Twitter, get that subscribe button clickety-clacked, and I will see you next time with another patch notice. Back to patch notice. I'm your host, Jacky. We're now living in the era of the 2-week patch cycle for Deadlock, so August 1st is the start of a new timeline for the game. Up first and foremost, a gigantic change is the return of Viscous, a hero that some thought might have been left behind after the move from Neon Prime into Deadlock, but the gooey big boy makes his return. With some slight changes to the remnants of what was left over of Viscous that you could previously find by spawning him in through console commands, he's had a couple of updates. Namely, a few of his abilities have changed. You can see on screen here what his abilities look like and how they work. The healing cube returns and can be used on multiple characters, enemies, or yourself or allies alike. He also has an uppercut punch called the Puddle Punch as his free, which will allow you to knock enemy players out of the way, forcing them into towers or forcing yourself to higher ground with its momentum. It's a pretty cool ability set that he's got, and he's very strong right now in the current meta. Viscous feels like a character that's going to be able to do a ton of damage with its spirit scaling, definitely something you should keep your eyes on. The pros and cons though are the gameplay style. Very different from any other hero that we've got in the game right now. On screen is his ultimate, which has some very unique interactions, allowing you to hold mouse 1 to go faster. He ricochets off of walls, bouncing him in all sorts of different directions. You can use zip lines when in this goo mode, and also cube yourself. So there's some cool ways to play Viscous, and it's definitely worth testing him out. A fantastic new addition to the game, much like the reworked build system that's been brought in. They've completely overhauled how builds work in the 1st of August patch. Unfortunately, any builds that you would have previously had have been entirely nuked. Valve did say that there's going to be a console command that will print out your older builds, so if you need to get them back, that's something that's coming in a nearby patch. For now though, play around with it. There's a great guide on the Discord that was made by Blank to explain the new ways that you can use it, as it is a little bit finicky. Matchmaking has had some changes as well, with NA servers being moved to the middle of the country to provide better ping across the board, and had its start and end times reduced by an hour for playtesting. Oceania has now also got servers, so good day to our Aussie friends that will be coming in. There's also been one change to hero roster requirements. You no longer need to choose 4 champions, you can now choose 3 and be able to queue. Here's the important changes that have been made to the minimap that were shown off in some really nice ways in the patch notes. Feels like Valve have taken a bit of inspiration from patch notes. That was cool to see. You can see here they've updated the minimap to work similarly to how it does in Counter-Strike when you're playing a map like Nuke or Vertigo, allowing you to see when a player is underneath the map, fading out or in the above or lower layers, and the new teleporter locations that will be indicated. They've also made some changes to Sandbox, adding an orb spawner. Now this is important because souls have been completely changed. Now in Deadlock, when you kill an enemy candle trooper, souls will spawn in one of 3 directions randomly: left, right, or upwards. So it's not as easy as pre-firing on the head of the killed candle trooper anymore. Get used to that, play around with it. It's throwing some players off right now, and it seems to be the talk of the town with the update. They've also added a patrolling dummy for you to practice your tracing, which is a cool addition as well. The Cosmic Veil had some minor changes done in the way that it responds to your camera placement, so it now should be slightly more accurate to where your character is in terms of looking through veils. On the Wraith timeline, let's have a look at a new zipline animation as well. Pretty damn elegant actually. This one's had a bit of a jazzing up inside of the patch and looks quite cool. Lash also got some new visuals for Ground Strike, and alongside that they fixed some bugs to do with Lash as well. Multiple smaller bug fixes were bundled in inside of this update. You can see Valve took a lot of time to add in new vehicles, new locations, and later on in the video we'll show you just what they've overhauled, as Purple Lane and Yellow Lane have undergone some gigantic changes. Let's get those under the microscope and see exactly what they've done. Here you can see how Purple Lane used to look on the Sapphire side pre-patch. As you remember, it had the usual walker up ahead by the bridge with the back alley area that would take you round to where the jazz music would always play from the building, with the neutral farm behind there. However, after tonight's update, these areas have undergone mass overhauls and are almost unrecognizable. On screen now is the updated version.
As you can see, some areas have been blocked off, doorways have been moved, entire portions of the map have been repositioned and remodeled, like here. The new Walker location, adding it in a more central area along the zipline with different verticality behind and around and new tunnels for you to navigate through. A lot was changed in both of these lanes. Here again you can see on screen with the yellow lane how much Valve have gone in depth in redesigning these areas to give them a whole load of new flavour. Yellow is similar to what we saw with purple, with the updates to verticality, new tunnels, new areas, all sorts of changes. These videos give you a good sense of the overall adjustments that were made with the pre and post patch footage, but I'd really recommend loading up the map in street test and feeling it out for yourself. So much was updated inside of tonight's update, and there's an awful lot of new things to wrap your head around. With the new yellow, you can see how the back area by the iron mill has been completely remodeled, trees have been replaced with the new smokestack prop, different areas have been cut off and redesigned, alongside removing some of the alleyway smoke trails that were previously blocking vision, providing for entire new ways to play around the map design. There's new angles, new points to fight from, and it gives you a lot more depth to the actual combat in these areas from my testing. There was quite a few bugs that came along with the update, but Valve have already been dropping hotfixes, and Yoshi has been very active on the Discord and on the forums, alerting people to what they've already notified themselves of realizing needs to be fixed. So if you spot any bugs, be sure to report those and make sure that they're aware. This is what I was talking about with the alleyway updates. The smokes that would previously block these areas and provide a shroud of vision are now gone, so you can see straight down them, alongside some slight remodeling to all different areas across the map. The mid teleporter has been entirely replaced. It's now redundant with the changes to teleporters that we'll get into a little bit later, so it's been opened up into a pathway straight down towards mid and a quicker access route to the mid boss. Now, this is something that's actually been applied across the map. The purple Duke closet has also had this updated. This is mirrored on either end of the map, providing quick access tunnels that you can use to get down to the lower level teleporters, and other teleporters have been completely remodeled as well, providing you new points of teleportation across the map. There was a nice graph that was indicated inside of the patch notes that we'll get under the microscope and show off just what they've changed there. Here's the new smokestack prop that I was talking about that has replaced quite a few of the trees in various areas of the map. Valve have also gone ahead and deforested a lot of areas, removing trees that were previously blocking LOS near walkers on orange and I believe blue lane as well. This is a big portion of the update for me as well. The new contextual lean that has been added. Valve said that they updated the system to be a little bit more intelligent with the way this works. Each hero has its own unique lean animation. I'm showing you a handful of them on screen here, but as you can see, where previously, as long as your eye line would allow you to shoot round the corner, it was a bit disjointed with where your actual model was standing. Now, every character will slightly lean round the side of the corner. It's a bit more exaggerated on some rather than others. You can see here, it does look a little bit wild with a lean back that gets pulled out, but it is a really cool change. One of those that I think will actually go ahead to improve the visual feedback of gameplay when playing Deadlock in the coming months. A nice adjustment, and one that I hope to see Valve continue to tweak smaller features in this manner to provide a one-to-one feeling of gameplay and visual feedback. On Abrams, you can see how his body adjusts to give him that little lean round the corner when he's taking firefights, making it easier for you to shoot out and fight enemies, but for them to also take shots back at you. Here's the new teleporter locations indicated by the lovely graph that was shared by Yoshi inside of the patch notes. You can see the numbers indicate what locations will teleport you to what locations, with both of the warehouses in respective lanes now being repurposed for new teleporter hotspots, and one teleporter in both of the subways linking you to either side of the map. They also fixed taking damage not stopping you from teleporting, so that's something to be aware of. Here's the meat and potatoes of the patch for me though. These on screen now are some of the bigger changes. Each trooper you shoot at will now consider you a higher priority, meaning they will be pulled off of the Guardians and Walkers and start shooting at you. The laser DPS from Walkers will also now do increased damage onto troopers, and parrying a Guardian attack is no longer possible, so you can't get those quick combos off. Also, the Patron will now be more aggressive, move faster, and does more damage when the shrines are destroyed. Weakened Patron HP regen has also been buffed, alongside the out of combat delay that's been reduced from 30 to 20 seconds. Alongside those major gameplay updates, Rejuve's bonus of 75% reduced respawn time has now been changed to 50%, making Rejuve nowhere near as obnoxious, with mid-boss also getting a buff to its overall HP. You'll also notice there's a lot of things that I haven't covered in tonight's patch notice. Item changes, hero changes, and some of the smaller bug fixes. That's because of the amazing response to mine and Blank's coverage in patch notice on the road. We're going to bring back that format and start a podcast called Dead Air. So if you'd like to see Dead Air podcast, that'll be coming out regularly from now on. Links will be down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning into Patch Notice. Hope to see you soon. I'm back home now, so expect regular content coming your way. Until then, get back out there. Back to Patch Noticed. I'm your host, Jacky, and let's step into the update that Valve has sprung us for the 7th of August. A surprise update tonight with minor general changes and quite a lot of updates to the balance of Viscous. Let's start with the general tweaks then. Server performance has had improvements in tonight's update alongside the build system. New categories by default will now be wider when added to your build layouts. Here's quite a sleeper update though that was tweaked in the previous patch. Soul Orb spawning trajectory was changed an awful lot, with 1/3 chance of 3 separate pathways for it to spawn being added. In tonight's patch, Valve have reduced the aggressiveness of the movement somewhat and changed the visual effects slightly. Here you can see an on-screen comparison between the two. Let me know your thoughts on these changes to Soul Orb CSing down below. Following that, they've added a legacy command that will allow you to print out your older builds if you didn't take screenshots of them in time before the new build system was added to Deadlock. But now let's have a look at the real meat and potatoes, or potentially the meat and jello. Viscous. He's undergone a lot of balance changes in tonight's update and quite a few visual effect overhauls as well. The goo ball has had a directional arrow added on screen to give you a better overall sense of the way you're moving when bouncing about in his gooey state, with newer particle effects as well being added to further give it that goo fantasy that you all love. Hit detection on the goo ball and puddle punch have been improved with tonight's patch, allowing you to more reliably land those uppercut knocks or rollbacks when you're trying to bounce around in the goo ball and knock people away. On top of that though, they have removed a gameplay feature that people were using, in which you could attempt to punch away enemy heroes if they were too close to a Guardian, using the puddle punch off of the Guardian hitbox to hit them with a very surprising attack. The range overall for puddle punch has also been reduced down to 60 meters, but Valve have fixed a bug in which the tooltip was incorrect on puddle punch's initial release. Splatter's cooldown has been nerfed to 20 seconds rather than 18, and the base damage of Splatter has gone down by 10 points of damage as well, from 120 to 110. Splatter stacking damage has also now been reduced, so after each sequential hit, it will do a percentage lower amount of damage, meaning it won't have quite the same burst as it previously had on first launch. If you'd like to know more about mine and Blank's thoughts on Viscous and how he's fitting into the meta and what his kit plays like, tune into the latest episode of Dead Air, our podcast that's out now. Episode 1 seems to be going down a treat, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so please check out Dead Air. That's it for Patch Notice though, and I hope you've enjoyed the show today. A minor update from Valve, but with some cool fixes, little tweaks, and quite a few overhauls to the abilities that Vicious is currently dominating in lane with.
get back out there, and I'll see you next time. To Patch Notice, I'm your host, Jacky. Let's get into the update that Valve have dropped on us for the 15th of August. Firstly, they've added another new hero to the game, introducing Shiv, the chin chopper himself. Looking to cut up all the fresh meat on the streets of New York, Shiv has a crazy kit with loads of mobility, a very aggressive playstyle, and overall looks to be a very fun hero to play. Up first, let's have a look at his one. Serrated Knives, a throwing knife that will deal damage and slow enemies, and will deal more damage based on the stacks of rage that you've got. If you're at full rage, it will actually ricochet and slow other enemies down whilst making them bleed. His 2 Slice and Dice allows you to charge towards enemies and do a ton of damage as you impact into them. Combo that with Bloodletting, the fact that he basically has free damage mitigation and self-healing on hand is absolute insanity. It really feels like Shiv's coming into Deadlock to potentially be one of the best in the business. Lastly then, let's talk about Killing Blow, his ultimate. Changed of course from the initial pre-release ultimate that he had if you dug around in the console. Now, Killing Blow is effectively just an execute. He does look a little bit like Axe, and yeah, he can execute if he wants to ask you a question. That question is, are you gonna die if you're below 25% HP? The answer, yes. Outside of his actual weaponry, his kit also has some great movement abilities. Even just his base overall gameplay feels really fun to work with. In the same vein that Viscous feels unique in how he's this gooey ball of terror, you've got Shiv who feels like he's a well-oiled, sharp tool of destruction. His design's got so much personality to it, and it feels like there was a lot of love that went into creating Shiv. He's got such a cool style to him, very reminiscent of the rockabilly Japanese style, with a constant head bob and a sleek overall design. Go try out Shiv. Okay, enough glazing Shiv. Let's have a look at what else has changed in tonight's update, as there's actually been quite a substantial amount. Firstly, let's get under the hood of the map changes. Bounce pads. An unexpected addition makes its way to New York. New movement options have popped up all over the map. Some of them you'll see on screen now, providing far more options for quick rotates, new verticality, and different ways to take fights in previously unexplored regions of the map. You've got quick escapes from down towards the underground shops, and different ways to peek now in elevated positions. A really nice update. Following on from this, they've also tweaked the base. Again, nowhere near as drastically as what we'd seen in the past, but just providing you different avenues to get deeper down towards your walkers on the yellow and purple lanes, respectively. You've now got tunnels that you can roam through if you need to make a quick reposition, say if troopers are pushing your base, or if you're looking to flank round the back and make a play off the back of it. Flanking is actually a key word in tonight's update with all of the overall changes that have been made. There's so many new angles for you to fight from. New rooftops, new juke closets, new corridors, hell, new everything. It almost feels like the map has been given a V2 pass with just how much visually and gameplay wise has been updated. On screen now is the map of new rooftop locations that have been added inside of tonight's update. 4 brand new rooftops for you to fight from, and that's not even touching on the fact that there's new catwalks and connecting corridors scattered around the streets of New York. It feels like playing with height from range and with verticality was a big focus in tonight's update, alongside supporting movement. With Shiv's kit and the new bounce pads alongside the new roofs, it really feels like Valve want you to get aggressive and play with pace, something that Deadlock seems to have written into its DNA. They also overhauled the yellow fireman's building, making it feel more reminiscent to what we have over on the purple lane in terms of the church/cathedral, giving it an overall similar layout in terms of the openings that you can get in and out of, restricting opportunities of you being caught in the jungle with no options for outplay. Overall, a pretty nice change actually. AP refunding. People were using AP refunding to get their ability points back whilst being able to cast spells, use actives, and generally do things that weren't intended. Valve have resolved that now. But they didn't stop there. Valve also made it so there's no longer a spectate limit on games. They overhauled the shop with a brand new built-in system displaying all of your stats, lore about the character and weapon that you're playing as, shows off what items build into what other items alongside giving even more power to the players in terms of community builds, suggesting what abilities to pick up, crosshair customization, magic carpets, other items alongside it as well. Valve went above and beyond in terms of the quality of the features they added and the support for the community. The Soul Urn finally gets an update from its old Neon Prime model with the ridiculous parachute to the new, crazy looking Celestial Rift, almost as if the urn's coming down from the beacon of some sort of spirit deity itself. Really nice overhaul on that one that fits the Deadlock vibe. Ricochet had a bug fix where the extra bullet was coming from the user's gun rather than the target, so now it really is ricocheting. Teleporting with the urn has finally been fixed as well, so that pesky bug allowing players to dip into the TP with the urn on their back and quickly peace out into another lane has finally been removed from the game. Arctic Beam at tier 3 has had a bug fix in which its range wasn't correctly calculating when it was supposed to have additional range added off the back of items. Also, for you Infernus mains, holding mouse 1 after flame dashing will now allow you to shoot without releasing and then pressing mouse 1 again. Seismic Impact and Siphon for Abrams has also had better visuals added to the game in terms of visual clarity. Next up, let's listen to some of the audio changes that have come in tonight's update. We'll start here with Haze and Smoke Bomb.
Moving into position. Time to disappear.
Gun sounds have also changed in tonight's update, so have a listen. Wraith's tracers were updated so that they should be more connected to the bullets than it previously looked like they were. Lady Geist has also had new improved visual effects added for her ultimate. Infernus has better performance off the back of some tweaks being made to his gun. Sleep Dagger for Haze was also tweaked with a different model and a new sound.
Sweet dreams. Bedtime for you.
Following on from that, we had language support for quite a few different languages inside of tonight's update, giving localization support for many different regions. Talking of regions, matchmaking for all regions will now start 1 hour earlier. That's more time to lock it in. When you want to lock it in, you can now set priority of preferred, your primary pick, and your general hero pick out of your free picks for heroes, giving you a little bit more choice and control in matchmaking. The teleporter also underwent some changes in tonight's update. You will not be stopped from teleporting when taking damage now. However, it will take 5 seconds to channel the teleport. You'll also have to be within 30 meters to deal damage to walkers, and those walkers have had their HP buffed by 15%. Base Guardian's HP has also gone up by 20%. And the Patron has a 30% damage buff when vulnerable, alongside a new multi-target attack similar to Torment Pulse. That is cool. And lastly, the Curiosity Shop has been given an alternative theme. Have a listen to it here. If you'd like to listen to the full song, it's available on the Dead Air channel and linked below in the description. But that's it for your patch notice. We're going to be going deeper on tonight's patch with myself and Blank on the Dead Air podcast tomorrow, so tune in for that every Saturday. For now though, I've been your host Jacky. Thank you for watching Patch Notice here on Dead Air. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Welcome back to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and I'll be guiding you through all of the changes that were brought in by Valve on the August 17th patch for Deadlock. More of a mini hotfix, resulting in a lot of balance changes for both Shiv and Ivy. On release, it's fair enough that Shiv did require a few balance changes as he was incredibly strong. So strong, in fact, he was crashing some servers. Let's have a look at what they've done to his base gun damage. They've gone ahead and reduced it from 6.3 to 5.7, bringing it in line with some of the other weapons in the game. Serrated knives have also had a lot of attention put on them. On screen you can see a before the patch image, and this is after tonight's patch. Substantial changes to the amount of damage that serrated knives are going to be dealing. Alongside that, to combat how strong they were from range and with the sheer speed of them, the velocity and collision side have both been scaled down by 10%. The base damage, of course, also got that reduction of 75 to just 35, slicing it down by a large margin. Its spirit scaling has also been reduced somewhat, not the worst nerf, but definitely one that you will feel, and serrated knives in tier 3 had effectively a big damage overhaul, so you're not quite getting those nearly 200 points of damage off the back of serrated knives just at tier 3 alone. Bloodletting has also had some fixes implemented, with it being far stronger than it was intended to be. Let's have a look at what they've done to Killing Blow then. Just a simple fix here. No nerf to the very exciting ultimate, it still has its passive in which you can chain kills together to get that full reset. It will just stop you from falling through the world. Everyone's favourite Deadlock character, it's Ivy. And you'll be happy to hear that Valve have reset the changes to her voice SFX. She now has her original character voice back. There is a whole host of balance changes for Ivy as well though. Of course, in the previous update she was given a new ultimate. They haven't taken it away, but they have tweaked how it works, increasing its cooldown by 10 seconds from 70 to 80. Airdrops 1 will no longer silence in the base, as that's now part of Ivy's tier 3. And the duration has gone down by a few seconds from 20 to 17. Lastly, the slow duration has been increased by an additional second and a half from 3 to 4.5. Spectating's had a bug fix where it would end prematurely, a minute before the game itself would actually end. The hero demo has also had a fix where previously it would start you at max level, and they fixed an issue with your boon levels being displayed incorrectly. And thankfully for you audiophiles out there, the music in the shop has been reverted back to the original song by default. Previously it wasn't playing both, as an alternative it was only playing the new song. Lady Geist is also now able to jump during life drain. Remember, if you want a deep dive on all of the changes in the 15th and 17th of August patch for Deadlock, then myself, Blank and Damp will guide you through everything on the Dead Air podcast. You can check out that episode on the channel in the description below. Otherwise, I've been your host Jacky. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Dead Air and get back out there. Welcome back to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and here on the Dead Air channel, I'll be taking you through the minor updates that were released for Deadlock on the 18th and 22nd of August. First up, Restorative Locket underwent an awful lot of changes on the 18th update. Firstly, they reduced its spirit resist from 10% to 8%. They also went ahead and nerfed its overall healing capabilities by 5, down from 40 to 35. Of course, with 15 stacks, that is a lot of health. Restorative Locket's cooldown was increased by 4 seconds from 24 to 28 as well, with its max stamina restore that previously used to refill your entire stamina bar now being capped at just 1 stamina charge.
Then into the 22nd, we had a lot of changes for items and abilities. High Velocity Magazine was affecting some abilities unintentionally. It's just supposed to buff your bullets, but I believe it was also buffing various throwing projectiles, making them quicker and a little bit bigger. Outside of High Velocity Mag then, let's have a look at another item that's changed. Silence Glyph. Damage was reduced on this bad boy from 150 down to 100, a fair change with how much output of damage it had. It's also lost the additional benefit of giving you +2 sprint, it will now only give you +1. The large change though is in its spirit scaling. Going down from 1.5 to just 1, that is actually a huge nerf to its overall spirit scaling damage increase over the course of a game. Following on from that, there was a few other minor changes to Silence Glyph. Reactive Barriers cooldown went up by 10 seconds from 20 seconds to 30 seconds, making it a bit more of an actual reactive barrier, rather than always being off cooldown and something that you could use every single fight. Now it will be a little bit more situational about when the item will pop, and you'll have to be more proactive in using it. Following on from that, Return Fire. Now, it's an interesting way that Valve have decided to balance this item, and we spoke about it in depth over on the latest Dead Air podcast, but Valve went ahead and nerfed its damage by 10%, down from 80 to 70. Me and Blank hypothesized, however, that it might have been smarter to instead reduce the cooldown or nerf it in a different way, as 70% is still a large amount of damage and can be annoying when comboed with other items like Metal Skin. Next on the docket, let's have a look at Siphon Bullets. These are becoming more and more meta and popping up in various builds all over the shop. They were previously acting as spirit damage for procs, so that has been fixed in the update. However, it's the following change that's a bit more impactful, as no matter who kills you with Siphon Bullets, you'll now lose 2 stacks on death. Ivy also has some balance changes. One big balance change to the balancing act that is her ult. Airdrop will now silence the ally that's being carried until they've been released. Of course, it makes sense. It only survived one small patch cycle, but being able to carry a 7 whilst it's ulting and zap everyone like a big bug zapper is no longer a viable part of the game. Unfortunate, we'll miss it, but it's gone. For Shiv, he's had some more changes to Bloodletting. Shiv and Ivy both get a lot of love, it seems, right now, with various tweaks to her new ultimate and Bloodletting's damage mitigation capabilities for Shiv, with damage deferred being reduced by 5% down from 40 to 35. An interesting one as well now, as shotgun heroes had a fix applied to them where previously they were applying build-up effects like toxic bullets instantly on ricocheted enemies. Meaning some smart fellow out there figured out that you could use characters that fire multiple projectiles at once to apply bleed or damage dealing effects off the back of using ricochet in synergy with it. An interesting bug that Valve have detected and now fixed, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Lastly, Guardians are changed once again when it comes to parrying them. Of course, parrying Guardians has been tweaked a lot recently, but now, off the back of pulling off a successful parry, you can't chain stun them together, stopping a Guardian from actually fighting back. Instead, they'll quickly burst you with a laser. A better change. If you'd like a deep dive on all this and more though, and want to stay up to date with all the changes every time there's a Deadlock patch, then please like, subscribe, and listen to the Dead Air podcast. I've been your host, Jacky. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Patch Notice, and get back out there.
Welcome to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and today here on the Dead Air channel, I'm going to be taking you through the Deadlock update for the 30th of August. The biggest change, and by far the coolest, is the fact that Valve have added a whole new movement mechanic to Deadlock. You can now wall jump. It will use no stamina
and allow you to directionally bounce yourself off of any surface. You can use this to fling around off of walls and express far more skill when it comes to controlling your momentum and movement. As you can see with jumps like this, it's possible to use it in all sorts of creative ways to navigate around the cursed apple. Using it with synergy is a big part of the new update as well, comboing wall jumps with rails, slides, and ropes. That's right, ropes. The new climbing mechanic that was also introduced alongside wall jumping. All over the streets of New York, these ropes have popped up in some new locations and replacement locations for bounce pads, giving you opportunities to climb up to new areas of verticality without burning stamina. Fighting on high ground now becomes far easier for a majority of heroes in the pool. And you can fight on the ropes as well, shooting your gun whilst climbing them. On screen now is a few of the different rope locations that have popped up over the map. Bounce pads have also had some new locations to make up for the ones that have been removed. Rather than you going up in a straight line, those will now be ropes, whereas bounce pads are used for traversing far gaps and distances. Talking of traversing far gaps and distances, teleporters have had a huge overhaul. Not only have they received a new model that seems to be based on the police core box from England back in the early 60s, and of course the classic TARDIS from Doctor Who, it even includes an Easter egg alluding to Portal 2's logo. So Valve paying homage to some of their older games. But they've also changed how teleporters work in terms of the locational teleportation. Let's have a look at the quick map that I've whipped up to show you how things are now working in terms of the teleporter locations. You will now have 8 possible teleporters across the map that teleport you between 4 different routes, from Amber and Sapphire lanes, with some of them remaining similar, but a lot of them changing in terms of their overall location, now being down on street level. But getting off of street level is an important part of tonight's patch, because Valve have opened up multiple rooftops across New York, giving you new vantage points across the entire battlefield, allowing you to take fights in completely new ways. Alongside that, there's breakable locations up on these vantage points as well, providing you new opportunities to gather souls and power-ups. Guardians have also undergone some changes in tonight's update, namely itemization based off of flex slots. Flex slots have been changed so you no longer get awarded one for taking a single set of enemy-based guardians. Now you have to destroy all enemy lane guardians to receive your flex slot. AP also had some changes, as killing guardians will no longer award you ability points. Instead, you'll receive them at set soul levels throughout the game, progressing when you hit each cap and being rewarded AP at these soul levels: 3,500, 5,200, 8,000, and finally 9,700. A big issue currently in the scene is that people were abusing pausing after the game went public. Valve have fixed that by making it so you individually can only use the pause once per game, and at most 3 times per team. So now you know, stop abusing it. Meanwhile, in the sandbox, Valve have added a gym, so you can prove that you're the king of fighters and train your parrying with a bot that will automatically attempt to heavy punch you as soon as you step inside of the dojo. A cool way to train your timing on parrying without having friends connecting to a local listen server. They also went ahead and added a brand new tier 3 weapon item called Headhunter. Landing headshots will deal bonus damage, and it will heal you for the damage dealt. One for you Lady Geist mains out there, or potentially Vindictors if you want to be hitting those big taps. Viscous also received a gun rework. He's now joining some of the other heroes along the lines of Shiv and Yamato that have alternate fires on their weapon. With your right click, you'll now spend more ammunition to fire out an AoE based shot that will explode goo everywhere and deal damage in the surrounding area. You cannot headshot with it, but overall it's pretty powerful and feels like it's given a little bit more flavor to Viscous as an individual hero, rather than just having a similar gun to Kelvin. They've also brought his reload time more in line with other heroes and tweaked the weapon itself. Something that needed tweaking though, by community demand, was Ivy's new ultimate airdrop being able to pick up 7 and bring him as a bug zapper that would zap everyone. Valve wanted to leave it in, as it is a cool way to
play the game, so they've tweaked it in this manner, making it so allies deal 50% less damage when they're being carried in airdrop. Silence no more, however, as the silence that was brought in the previous patch that meant you couldn't cast in air has been removed, allowing you to once again cast freely when being carried. But they have nerfed it, making it longer to cast and slower in terms of its maximum move speed when you're in air as Ivy's airdrop. Destroying base guardians will now also correctly display an express icon beneath the zipline, educating newer players that ziplines get a free boost when you take out base guardians on that line. Valve also added hero stats. You now have a completely revamped hero stat page where you can look through games played, souls denied, damage, all sorts of different things to give you an overall sense of how your deadlocking is going. Soul Urn. For the Soul Urn, the delivery point has now been marked as red. You can see it has a red indicator now, so you are able to easily identify where to pick up and where to drop off the Soul Urn. No more confusion there. I'm sure you know where you're going. Sprint bonus was, however, increased from +2 to +3, meaning that you're even faster now when shepherding the urn to its drop-off designated spot. Golden statues have had their drop rate increased by 6%, so it's even more lucrative to make sure you're smashing them open at every opportunity like you're doing your best Legend of Zelda cosplay. Walker's minimum range to attack has once again been brought back to 32 meters. It was reduced to 30 in a previous patch, but we go back to where we were before that, allowing you to have a little bit more distance between you and the walker when dealing damage to them. Here's one for players that hate Abrams though. Parrying cooldown has now been reduced from 6 seconds to 5 seconds, making it easier to get those quick stuns off and chain them together. So remember, 1 second of difference could save your life on a parry. More language support has been added to Deadlock, with German, Polish and Korean now being supported with the game. Matchmaking times are now opening 1 hour earlier for all regions on weekdays and weekends. Stability performance for the client and server has also apparently been improved across the board. This is fantastic news and always a welcome addition to the game. Great to see Valve are improving Deadlock in all facets every update. Streamer mode has been added now the game is allowed to be discussed publicly and finally streamed. This will hide player nameplates in-game, making it so it's harder to know where your streamers are and track them down to troll them. Visuals and audio. Let's step into this segment where I'll be letting you listen and see the changes that have come in to various effects.
Granting immunity.
You want to mess with me? Ground pound! I'm about to ruin your day. Now's our chance! Make your choice. Throwing flask. Alchemical flask. Strike them down.
As you can see, a whole load of sound effects were changed in tonight's patch, and a new line of dialogue, banter between Seven and Lash, was added.
Word on the street is you're some kind of boogeyman.
I'm not interested in chit-chat.
That's fine. The Lash knows how to carry a conversation.
There is no conversation.
The Lash does it again.
They say you have quite the ego.
Mediocre people say lots of unintelligent things.
On this, we can agree. You're the pit fighter, yes?
You mispronounced champion.
How silly of me.
Mistakes happen, Glowstick.
What did you call me?
Glowstick. It's your new nickname.
Call me that again, and I will pop your eyes like grapes.
7 it is.
Really cool to see the characters interacting. What else is cool is Valve added another Curiosity Shop variant. If you'd like to hear the full version of that song, it's available on the Dead Air channel now. But let's move into map changes and see what's changed visually here with some before and after comparisons. Tonight's patch actually has some of the biggest visual overhauls we've had to Deadlock throughout its entire development period. A lot has changed, from the New York skyline to a lot of the nitty-gritty details as well. You can see things are far more color-coded on a lane-by-lane basis, allowing you to visually identify what lane you're in by the purple, yellow, or blue coloring that's starting to fill up the map. The big statues that were scattered throughout the map towards midside as well with the inner lanes have been knocked down and replaced with some buildings, alongside multiple bounce pads being replaced with ropes inside of this patch as well. A lot of new pop-ups have appeared throughout the map in terms of overall adverts and signage, giving you new bits of flavor and lore. All in all, I think the visual changes we've had in tonight's update are some of the best we've seen, and it shows the direction that Valve is going in with making Deadlock feel more alive and like a hustling, bustling city based on the concept art that we saw a long time ago. If you'd like to hear mine and Blank's thoughts in more detail though on everything that's changed in this patch, including items, balance, and heroes, then please tune into the Dead Air podcast that will be going live every Saturday. For now though, thanks so much for watching Patch Notice. Please like and subscribe. I've been your host, Jacky. Get back out there. To Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and you're watching Patch Notice on Dead Air. Today, we're going to be going over the 1st of September minor update for Deadlock. In today's patch, we saw a few minor balance changes for a couple of heroes and one exploit being fixed. Let's start off with Infernus. Infernus had a minor change to Flame Dash. It's now gained 30% slow resistance, meaning it'll be harder for you to be stopped when Naruto running away in a quick dash. Next up, it's everyone's favorite Gargoyle, Ivy. Ivy's airdrop was tweaked in a previous patch, and it increased the self-cast time from 1 second to 2 seconds. Valve have found a middle ground, now adding it back to 1.3 seconds. 7 has also undergone a minor balance change. This one is going to be focusing on his Stormcloud ultimate and the way it scales with Spirit. Let's have a look at what Valve have changed. Stormcloud will now have a Spirit Power DPS scaling of 0.7, that's down by 0.1 from 0.8. Viscous also had by far the most changes in this minor balance patch. Up first, his Puddle Punch. A numerous amount of changes on this one, so we'll start from the top. Damage reduction, down from plus 50 to 35. Quite a substantial nerf to its overall damage. Alongside that, its base cooldown has been increased by 4 seconds, going up from 24 to 28 seconds. Base cast range is also down by 20 meters. On screen now, you can see how the maximum radius of his Puddle Punch has been vastly sliced. It also won't have as much oomph when it hits someone. The trampoline effect of knocking someone miles into the air has been reduced, as it now knocks people less high up. His gun was also changed. You might remember in the 29th of August update, Valve added an alternate fire, but to balance that, they've reduced the base clip by 4 rounds and made it so the alt fire now requires 5 bullets, meaning you can only shoot the gun 4 times just using the alt fire before his gun is out of ammunition. Next up, movement changes to do with the new additions replacing bounce pads in certain areas. Ropes. Activation range is up by 0.2 meters, so it should be easier to launch yourself onto a rope from a slightly further distance, making them feel less clunky. Alongside that, the sheer speed that you can climb at has been buffed by 2, going up from 11 to 13, meaning it's now a little bit quicker when climbing up and down ropes, so they play into the sequence of synergizing with movement a little bit better after tonight's update. On screen now is some quick gameplay of how they look and how they work. As you can see, they're a little bit smoother when it comes to chaining movement together and being able to keep your momentum whilst climbing. Previously, players were complaining they were a little bit too slow and jarring. One last thing that Valve have fixed is an issue with HTML being usable through builds in the new build system. That exploit is no longer something you have to worry about. Thanks so much for watching though. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's patch notice here on Dead Air. I've been your host Jacky, keeping you up to date with all things Deadlock. So get back out there. Welcome to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, here on Dead Air, and I'm going to be taking you through the September 12th update for Deadlock. First and foremost then, let's have a look at the UI changes. This is the new minimap. Well, it was the new minimap on patch night. However, this is the new minimap after some hotfixes updated the way it looked due to complaints from the community. Following on from that, Valve also added minimap icons to the game, stylized more like the pixel artwork that you'll find in Dota 2's minimap. But again, people were relatively unhappy with a lot of these. Some of them have even been removed, whilst others have been updated, like Hayes and Abrams having changes made to the way that they look. The visual changes continue from there as well, with movement related changes coming in, this time purely cosmetic. Bounce pads that you might remember a little while ago popped up all over the cursed apple. However, this asset was simply being reused from the unreleased Hero Holidays kit. You may have even noticed Holiday had an icon in the minimap icons that were added in this patch. Interesting, isn't it? Maybe Valve are getting ready for a holiday next week. However, in the case of the bounce pads, they've been replaced with a more thematically appropriate style of launching device, a propulsion-based wind fan that has a rather nice callback to Deadlock, with it having the Deadlock insignia, the eye, in the center of the fan's guard. There has been way more map changes in tonight's update though, one of them meaning that we finally said goodbye to Orange Lane. Let's have a look at what's changed with the base first and foremost. Weirdly, some of the street names were updated in this patch. Park Avenue was changed, Boulevard was given a brighter blue, and Orchard was completely removed, with Greenwich, Green Lane, replacing it. Now, quite a few people in the community were speculating about this being a potential change for a while now. I even know from personal experience playing with many friends of mine, they struggled to differentiate the orange from a red or even yellow lane. People were suspecting it was only a matter of time before it would be replaced, with multiple heroes having calls to Greenwich Lane in the game files. Well, it seems like they were right. Shout out to Lamorite and the modding Discord on that one, as it's now official and Greenwich, Green Lane, has been added. The footage you're seeing on screen now shows off Green Lane in its entirety. All in all, it's a nice lick of paint, with the lane getting a little bit more personality actually. I did love orange, but I'll give it up for Greenwich, as it does look pretty cool and the green's kind of fun. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to be here, but they accidentally left one orange sign as well with the new Greenwich name. Although Valve have made many more changes to the map than just your colours and naming, because they've really overhauled the inner lane shop setups. On both of the inner lanes, the two big buildings, the department store where Orchard used to be, and then of course the New York Oracle building over on Boulevard, well, they've been given a new passageway, a connection straight through in a straight line from where the shop would be, introducing a new room with 2 more box spawns and a new veil to play around. Pretty cool actually. On the Broadway changes, this is what I was talking about. It's been given a bit of a lick of paint. It feels like it's more vibrant in terms of the blue that's being used all throughout Boulevard, and you can see that across the board here with how it looks. Now, signs were also changed, as Valve mentioned in their patch note that the hotel, the air-conditioned hotel sign, was for some reason replacing a lot of the older signs. That's been fixed, so your classic signs are back. Flex slots, though, have been changed. And that's to do with walkers. Your flex slot that was originally gifted for taking down 1 walker will now be off the back of destruction of 2 walkers. So from 1 to 2. Soul Orbs also went through some pretty big changes in this update. Confirms and denies were overhauled so that orbs would now favour the claimer rather than the denier when both of you impacted the orb within a very narrow window of each other. This should help alleviate some issues to do with ping and in general being outplayed and outdenied when trying to farm a lane. Bear in mind though, it's a minute instance in terms of the timing. If timing is on your mind, then you're in luck, as you can now check the time to kill it's taking you from the minute a soul orb spawns in until you click on it and confirm it, letting you train your aim in sandbox and get some more information. Per hero keybinds has also been added as per popular demand from the community, as they've been asking for this one for a while. However, weirdly, you'll now have to manually enable the console through the options menu. This is commonplace in most other Valve games, and I suspect as we get closer towards launch, they wanted to unify that. Custom games, though, is a very cool one, as Valve have added custom game support. You can now officially play against entire bot teams inside of Deadlock, or draft your friends in, hell, even run tournaments through the built-in system on Valve's dedicated servers. Visual update. Let's have a look what's changed here then. Metal Skin has had some effect revisions. Always particularly liked the way Metal Skin looked, so it's cool to see it getting even further visual improvements. Static Charge as well had effect improvements, but this one was based on visibility, giving it a more clearly defined area for you and players affected by the static charge. Then they went on to change something simple to do with Refresher, making it no longer green in effect and rather purple now when being used. Looks a little bit more like Echo Shard, weirdly enough. Shoulder Charge was also given wall impacts. However, these won't play if you run into a wall by default. You have to impact with a player, which I suppose makes sense, then leaving the cracked effect on the wall. Now, the model rig for Abrams was also changed because his gun was blocking the crosshair when jumping, so that's been resolved. Shiv also had his reload animation while sprinting adjusted in this update, and Torment Pulse got some visual changes. You can see on screen here how it looks now. Valve state that this was done to reduce visual noise, and I assume make it a little bit more clear what the item is and when it's active. Have a listen to this though, as Toxic Bullets was given a new sound. Tesla Bullets was also given a new sound. As for Divine Barrier, the wings will no longer be fully opaque. Actually looks rather pretty now. And Echo Shard was given a new sound effect.
Nap time.
Lady Geist has had a lot of her sounds overhauled. Have a listen.
There's no escape. You will know. Feel the agony.
And then the unreleased hero Mirage was given a whole load of weird changes in tonight's patch, seeming like he's getting ready to be added. His model is now the default source to error. He's been given a portrait and a whole load of voice lines. Check these out.
Tornado's almost ready. Scarab's almost ready. Tempest Ward is almost ready. Jin's chains are almost ready. Let's take out Atlas. There's the detective. Look out for Bebop. There's the professor. There's Lady Geist. Hayes is on the prowl. Oh, great, Lash. The upstart is here. Here's that pile of goo. You're under my protection now. My vows are not taken lightly. Building a nation never comes easy. I will play my part, and in doing so, build a home for the Jinn. I fight on behalf of the Jinn. New York seems like a lovely place. My actions carry the weight of the Jinn. I will die before I fail you. If my services are needed to complete the ritual, then so be it. We all have a destiny. The only question is, do you have the courage to face it? I can't. I'm supposed to take Nashala on a tour of New Jersey. Sorry, Nashala wants to do some sightseeing. Apologies, I'm spoken for today. Best of luck. I'm sure you will endure fine without me. Fate has other plans for me today. Today, I try a hot dog. Stay safe during the ritual. I must be by Nashala's side. Only a fool opposes the Jinn.
He's even got dialogue with Seven.
So you're Nashala's pawn.
I serve at her pleasure. Yes.
It's so nice to work with someone who understands their place. So, Wyoming.
I know.
Good luck with that. How do you like working for the Jinn?
Well enough. Sometimes it's frustrating when Nashala makes impulsive, short-sighted decisions.
Such as?
Asking me to trust you.
Oh, you're fun.
Following on from that then, there's one specific set of hero changes I would like to highlight, as Kelvin's been given what I would call a bit of a gameplay overhaul. Not really a nerf, not really a buff, just a complete change. Guardians and Walkers, any objectives really, will now become frozen when they're inside of his frozen shelter, making them invulnerable to damage under this new frozen status effect. This will also affect mid-boss. As you can see, the Kelvin is shooting mid-boss, but he is not taking any damage at all. Weirdly enough, this also now interacts with Rejuvenator. It will be locked in place even whilst descending, and punching it will do absolutely nothing. Of course, it did feel like he was incredibly strong into last patch, so they've sliced down his fire rate slow by 40% and his movement slow by 10%, trying to make him a bit more balanced. Player behavior was a key point in this patch as well. With the servers now being 24/7, Valve realized they needed to crack down. So matchmaking, voice chat, text chat, pausing, and even reporting are now potentially going to be taken away from you if you have a negative behavior score. You could even be put into a low priority queue, and if you abuse the report feature, you might lose the access to it. So try and keep your act clean when you're out on the streets of the cursed apple. If you'd like to know more about this patch and listen to our live special for hitting 10k, check out the Dead Air podcast. I've been your host Jacky, thanks so much for listening to Patch Notice, and I will see you next time, New York. Welcome back to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and today we're going to be going through the October the 22nd update for Deadlock. So let's get right into it. Ranked. Badges have been revealed, and players have been given their first ever rank. On screen now are the high quality rips straight from the game files. You can see how beautiful all 11 of these ranks are. Of course, there's also 6 sub-ranks inside of each of these ranks, with some oddities to them. On screen now you see how it usually works for each rank. But for Alchemist, they've for some reason identified rank 6 with Roman numerals, where all other ranks use the star. Valve also made some secret UI changes. On screen here is the new confirm and ready up button that you can see when playing a game of Deadlock, with a slightly new theme to it with the colours. They also overhauled the match countdown screen to have this light green tint and a bit of a new animation when loading into a public game. Kinda cool. Valve certainly working on a few things that they don't want you to know about, and one of them is quite cheeky. It's this. A new in development UI command that's been added to the game. Through the console, you can enable citadel_unit_status_use_true that will give you this desired effect. It will allow you to use the new in development nameplates for both Guardians, Walkers, Shrines, and Jungle Camps, which are actually quite nice. Let's have a look how it looks over on the Amber side, as the footage you're seeing here depicts how it looks to spectators. So if you're watching an esports game of Deadlock or just spectating your friends, this is what it's going to look like potentially in the coming patches. I imagine right now Valve are testing this and trying to come up with a more thematic way to display HP. From an in-game perspective though, this is the colour scheme that will be used and how it looks with the more classic colours. Hell, the overhaul for Jungle Camps is probably one of the notable ones to look at, as I actually think it looks really nice. It indicates quite easily what HP is, similarly to how the old ones worked, using notches before it was multiple squares to indicate blocks of health, like here. You can see on current Deadlock, this is how the nameplates look. Very low key, minimalist, and not looking to take up much space. In the potentially new ones that you can force now through that console command, you can see there's a little bit more thematic feel to them. They do still work in the same way, displaying tooltip pop-ups on top for debuffs and damage modifiers, and even indicating if someone's put to sleep with a micro countdown giving you an indication of when that effect is going to stop. This also works in the same way when parrying towers. All in all, it's a pretty cool potential update, and just something I wanted to show off for now. You can access it and play with it in-game if you're interested. Let's get into map changes then, as the map has undergone quite a few changes as of late. Of course, here at Dead Air, we've been a little bit busy with the Cursed Apple Clash, and patch notice is something that I do entirely on my own. So rooting through the files whilst only having a laptop in London wasn't possible. However, now I can show you, of course, what's changed in full detail, and this is one of my favourite overhauls to a prefab in Deadlock. The building looks gorgeous now with an amazing theme. Even the taxi location, with another jungle camp, of course has been overhauled as well. They've kept a similar thematic feel, but changed the way the building looks, adding more rubble, more detail, and almost now as if it once was a cab location that's crumbled over the years, and the roof has collapsed on the taxi rank's only working car. Fate, I suppose. What a cruel mistress she can be. But all in all, map changes were pretty nice. You're getting a lot of details coming in, and art passes are certainly being worked on. One of them, of course, is this one, and this is a big fan favourite for me. I love the patch we got where they decided to add Frog's Leg to the soul urn. Unfortunately, it wouldn't use those frog's legs to run away. They were never animated. But as of late, that animation's gone in, and you can see now how it looks finally in game. It's actually kind of hilarious, whilst also being very adorable. This soul urn can sprint, and he will give up for absolutely nothing. As long as no one's standing within a radius around him, of course, the frog's legs will spawn in, and he will begin his journey back towards the spawn point. It's very fun to watch, and a lovely addition. But that is it for your patch notice for the 22nd of October. Don't forget, if you'd like to know more about what we're up to here at Dead Air, go watch the podcast. I've been your host, Jacky. Check us out on socials, and we will catch you on the streets of New York next time. Back to patch notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and today we're going to be going through the October the 24th update for Deadlock. Now, this is a major patch, so sit back and enjoy. Hero Labs. First and foremost, Valve went ahead and added 6 brand new in-development heroes to Deadlock. And if you'd like to play them, you can test them out in Hero Labs. For upwards of 2 hours per day, you can try one of these characters against other real players if you've completed 50 games of Deadlock and unlock the mode. Learn more about each and every one of the new heroes later in today's video. Even unreleased heroes were altered. Vandal was added to the game files, and we even saw Shield Guy getting a new shield model based on a Dota 2 cosmetic. Graphics and visual changes. Moving on then, we can have a look at the elephant in the room, or should I say, the lack of eclipse. Skybox and lighting have undergone some major overhauls in this patch, and Valve are clearly experimenting with new things. Fog, the skybox, and all of the colours that drive that have been entirely changed. You can see its changed setting, looking far more like it's early morning with the sun rising or just risen. But Valve went ahead and tweaked this colour a little bit later on. When the patch was first released, it was in the middle here, with this dark thematic setting. However, after a few hours and a hotfix, Valve tweaked it further. So they've been playing around with the skybox, and it is actually quite pretty. It's certainly grown on me. And another thing that's grown on me are these new character shaders. An almost shell-shaded like effect has been added to each and every one of the characters in Deadlock. Valve say that this is to help with visibility, whilst also adding more of a stylized effect to the roster. It's pretty cool, and most people seem to enjoy it, unlike the skybox change that's been pretty polarizing. Now, Statue Monkey 01 was also added to the game, and gives us a little bit of an idea, potentially, of where some of the statue models will be going when the placeholders are replaced. But McGuinness was given a brand new melee animation. And then Nice. Lash was also given some as well, and his is by far the best. Lash now has a kick. Your melees will no longer just need to be punches, and this fighter can start getting his legs involved. So watch out when you take on Lash in lane, because he's now known to kick. Climbing animations for Pocket have also been changed. Now when they grab onto a surface, the animation on screen will play. They actually look pretty cool when clambering up, holding the briefcase in their hand. A pretty cool tweak for Pocket. Life Drain's visuals, though, are beautiful.
A new heart will appear when initiating Life Drain, and this color gradient showing the blood transferred into souls to feed Oathkeeper look really cool. Malice had its visuals tweaked to reduce brightness for nearby players, and Mirage's gun visual effects were also played with. You can see how it looks here for his tracers, muzzle flash, and also when shooting. Shiv had his dagger size when impacted into someone reduce, so they look a little bit less comical now. Slice and Dice though is quite comical. The visual was tweaked for nearby players, but for some reason, the trail that's left behind on the ground seems to stick to Shiv and move with him. Unstoppable had its starting visual effects adjusted to make it more obvious, and Catalyst had its darkness reduced, allowing heroes to be brighter when covered in it. Concussive Combustion also had its visual effects toned down, so it's no longer anywhere near as bright, and the visual effects don't linger for as long. Visual noise and tracers when using high rate of fire weapons has been tweaked on a couple of heroes, namely Infernus, Wraith, and also Seven. This is to make it a little bit less ridiculous when they're shooting with all those rate of fire buffs. Kudzu bombs were also tweaked so that they display properly when thrown on a surface where they would come from the ground. Flog's visual was adjusted and replaced, and Valve went ahead and cleaned up the visual effects for Viscus's alt fire. Rescue Beam's visual bugs were pruned and removed, and the knockdown animation was played with. What they've done here has made it far more easy to know when it's about to be activated, telegraphing the attack before the stun hits. Gameplay changes. Some adjustments were made to both Shiv and Yamato to factor in Mirage's new ultimate. No longer will either of them track and trace you when you TP. Walkers will no longer award you AP either. And a similar change has been made to both Shrines and the Patron, as they won't award AP when being destroyed. But Valve have gone one step further and even removed the soul bounty that would have previously been given to you upon their demise. Soul orbs have also been given a latency buffer to make it more fair for online matchmaking, and the Trooper's soul split has been tweaked. Before, it was a 50-50 split between the Trooper kill and the soul orb. Now it's a 60-40. The breakable spawn timer has been changed from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. Alongside that, breakable souls have been reduced. Let's have a look at the soul earn changes then. Comeback properties will now only kick in at an 8% net worth lead. And the soul earn deposit locations have been tweaked based on how the game is going. If team souls are even, this is where the drop-off location will be. However, if Sapphire is currently leading, you'll have 2 drop-off locations in this portion of the map. And there's another 2 drop-off locations if Amber are leading as well, meaning the spawn locations have remained the same, but variants to make it more balanced depending on which team is winning or losing have been implemented. What do you think of the new urn changes? Alongside that, delayed delivery of the urn has been nerfed. If you carry the urn for 90 seconds, it will begin to drain 1% of your HP and disable your regeneration. It will also automatically return to its spawn point if it's dropped after 90 seconds of being carried, and lock out your team from being able to pick it up for 12 seconds. The urn now runs away faster and has increased walking speed. You can see now it will keep running even if you're near it, but at a slower state, and will begin to sprint if you're far enough away. To damage Guardians, you now must be fully above the stairs, so sliding on the stairs is not a viable strategy. The cutoff is shown on screen here. A lot of objectives were tweaked, with Guardians resisting Troopers starting at 60% and ending at -35 after 8 minutes. Guardians also now resist Players at 40% and ending at -35 after 8 minutes. Walkers also resist Troopers and Players starting at 60% and ending at -30% after 14 minutes. Some big changes to the amount of damage being dealt to objectives. Let's talk about backdoor protection. Increased backdoor protection range for troopers to prevent stalling with longer range spells. Valve looking to make it harder for you to be able to backdoor and push out lanes from a distance. Alongside that, backdoor protection removal now also has a 20-second buffer to prevent immediate activation once the creeps die. Mid-boss respawn timer will now decrease with subsequent kills from 7 minutes by 1 minute each time, 7 minutes to 6 minutes to 5 minutes. And troopers have been given more resistance. They now gain 40% spirit resistance gradually over 25 minutes, reaching 70% at 50 minutes. Base Guardians and Shrines no longer have out-of-combat regeneration either, meaning technically it's easier for you to force a push to guarantee damage on a shrine for your next attack. Parry active window has been increased from 0.7 to 0.75, with the cooldown reduced from 5 seconds to 4.5. The Medic Trooper heal has been tweaked. It has 2 charges now on a 6-second interval. However, the cooldown has been nerfed. It's been changed from 6 seconds to 35 seconds, but this balances out with the 2 charges, so it's nowhere near as bad as it sounds. Sinner's Sacrifice also underwent some changes. Weirdly now, it won't display the destruction animation when being destroyed, but subsequent hits will share souls with all previous attackers. Map changes, visuals, and geometry. Right then, let's have a look at what Valve have done to the map. Outside the elephant in the room being the big lighting changes and skybox overhaul, they've actually made quite a few gameplay changes to the Cursed Apple itself. On screen now are some of the new access points and alleyways on the outer lanes. Right now we're looking at York. You can see textures have been replaced, and also geometry has been entirely overhauled to do with jungle camps, meaning both jungle camps on outer lanes are now on the upper deck rather than one of them being lower and the other being upper. Both York and Park were given these new sky bridges to allow interesting new rotation points and different methods of fights. It's a relatively cool addition and does seem to suit the style already, but I'll need to try it out a little bit more to see how it overall affects the gameplay loop of Deadlock. But alongside a lot of the changes to Guardians, these map changes could slow down the game potentially. You can see here though it's the perfect location to get some quick shots off as a Vindictor. However, boxes seem to be spawning inside of the walls now towards Park. Valve, please fix. You can see the visual changes though and how the map has been tweaked to support this. A big overhaul on York Lane though is the removal of the railings and restructuring of the area from Urn where you need to climb up. It's far more open, more breathable, and would technically require less stamina for rotates, making the gameplay loop smoother. Alongside this gigantic set of stairs that's been added, both points of rotation allow for quick slides now, with the radio station also having a big set of stairs. Valve also overlaid a poster on top of this item poster. Valve, please fix. Some changes were made to the gas station, with the zipline being replaced with a set of stairs in both the lower and upper floor. Valve wanting to replace it with something a bit smoother potentially. These changes are also mirrored over on the blue side of things. With this jungle building having its ziplines replaced as well. A minor but interesting change is that Valve have updated this texture on Blue Lane. You can see the before and after here. However, Valve have left this gap in the map geometry. Valve, please fix. Next, Valve have actually fixed something massive here. I thought this was even intended, as this texture's been bugged for so long, but Valve have tweaked it and made it no longer scuffed. Now we can start to look at the new grass. Valve have started to overlay new grass all throughout the Cursed Apple. You can see a beautiful comparison of the lighting here towards mid and also how the new grass looks, popping up all over the place in some nice little areas, providing more foliage to the map. It's a pretty nice art pass and actually adds an awful lot of detail to the Cursed Apple, and it seems like Valve are starting to gear up to give the map a little bit more love in terms of its visual identity outside of entirely focusing on the gameplay. So Deadlock's actually getting into a pretty good spot in its overall design structure. The gameplay loop is tight, the map visuals are looking better and better, and we're finding ourselves in a nice era of Deadlock. Let's have a listen to the audio changes. Sound effects. Up first and foremost, Hayes' voice processing.
Dealing with. I won't let them win.
Let's take out Paradox.
Let's take out Paradox.
Teleporter sounds were also changed. Valve even added a teleporter sound file to the game. You can listen to the full version on our YouTube now. Click the link here. Healing Right was given a new ending sound effect. And Mystic Shot had its sound effect changed. Magic Carpet was given new sounds as well. Slowing Hex had its audio tweaked. Bug fixes. Valve had a fix with the Soul Urn, where it would remain in the world after being picked up on occasion. The pre-game countdown has also been fixed so it no longer overlaps over the shop, and the green tint has been removed from the previous patch. Jittering issues with Lash whilst aiming down sight and running and shooting have been fixed. Valve also fixed an issue when pressing escape would close the rank summary and skip the intro to the game. Controls and UI. Meanwhile, Valve have made optimizations to Deadlock's controls, adding keybinds for flying that you can now tweak through the settings, alongside a mouse sensitivity scaling option for vertical sensitivity. You can now drag and drop your build categories as well. Work in progress heroes. The roster expands. Let's have a look at all the heroes in detail then. Viper. Of course, this used to be Carly's model with some changes. It no longer has the cans of soda strapped to it and has been made green. You'll be green with envy when you realize just how good sliding and shooting is on Viper though. They actually seem like a pretty cool hero. They also reuse Ivy's zipline animation. Next up, let's have a look at Fathom, aka Slork. Slork has had his entire kit massively overhauled, with a few big tweaks here and there. Some of his gameplay is quite interesting, and it feels like he is still pretty fun. It seems like he reuses Pocket's gun, looking to split you in half like a bad magician. Next, let's have a look at Magician. Reusing an awful lot of Seven's animations, his gun, and his zipline, you can see that Magician based on one of Wraith's very early Deadlock conversion models when being adjusted from Neon Prime and Shadowline. However, his abilities and kit are quite fun. He can turn people into a rabbit, yes, that's right, a rabbit, that's what you're looking at. He also has the ability to redirect one of his attacks in mid-air. Vexing Bolt allows you to redirect it and attack a different location, like a magic missile. Very cool. Your Spectral Assistant you can cast will also assist you by mirroring whatever spells you do, so if you shoot, they'll shoot. I can't wait to play Holiday in regular games of Deadlock. I adore this character and think it's very fun in its current state. You have the ability to effectively be an aggressive Batrider type character from Dota that can run in, steal someone, pull them back into your enemy's favor, and you can even throw bombs, set up bounce pads. She's the ultimate rotate and harass hero. With her ability to deal increased damage on headshots, she's a fun aim hero alongside being pretty innovative, while she spawns in physical explosive barrels and can set up bounce pads to send them flying. Holiday is a very cool character, and if you get time to play Hero Labs, I would recommend checking her out. That brings us on to our next character then, Calico. Calico is incredibly cool. Another one of Valve's amazing designs, even for being this early in development. When jumping with Calico, the animations for her cat are really beautiful. You can see how it will actively roll around her body and be able to adjust itself to stay attached. Calico is also another one of the few heroes in Deadlock that have an alternate fire, being able to shoot horizontal and vertically with a difference in damage and rate of fire between both. Live your Isaac Clarke fantasy. Or be a cat girl and pounce into action with Calico's claws cutting through her enemies. Her Neko wards are also particularly aggressive, being able to be placed in all manner of places they certainly shouldn't be, alongside not expiring and being very overpowered. Valve have made Calico very strong, so try her out whilst you can. Lastly, it's Wrecker. One of the older models being straight up from Neon Prime and using the Clockwork helm from Team Fortress 2 that of course is based on Clockwork from Dota, Wrecker is a bit of a weird character. Try him out if you get a chance, but it's really one that you'll have to find a bit of an acquired taste to. Thanks so much though for watching this very long and intense episode of Patch Notice. So much to learn. Comment your favourite thing about the patch down below, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I've been your host Jacky, thank you for watching. Patch Notice, I'm your host Jacky. Let's dive straight into Deadlock's first Halloween update. That's right, Deadlock was given a surprise Halloween update that was unannounced with no patch notes. I've deep dived into it, so let's have a look exactly what's changed. First and foremost, the biggest glaring visual overhaul is the art pass that's been made to the Baroness Hotel. It's been completely renovated with brand new arches, glass, beautiful tiling, and all in all, amazing geometry that leaves you even more gobsmacked in the streets of New York. And that's not just because Lash has hit you with a punch to the face. Greenwich Lane has been given a big overhaul with this new edition of the Baroness Hotel. The visual fidelity goes to show what Valve is pushing for and how gorgeous Deadlock is going to look once everything has been given the same love, care and attention that these new prefabs and designs are getting. Let's take a walk around the Baroness and see exactly what's changed. The veil now has a beautiful archway above the top that is reminiscent of the Deadlock Eye insignia. Thus is a lot of the arches that have been put in. You can also see the new masks and pumpkins surrounding, but it's the dank darkness of the past that's been long forgotten, replaced with a gorgeous interior that looks absolutely jaw-dropping. Especially from these elevated angles, you can see how tall, bright and lovely these rooms now are. Farming got a whole lot less gloomy. For a Halloween update, it's quite the contrast. Walking around though, you feel how more breathable this area of Greenwich really is, and how much more of its own visual identity the game is starting to take on. The Baroness is clearly worth your money, so get your bookings in now before this 5-star hotel sells out for life. Sell your soul and stay at the Baroness today, the Cursed Apple's latest and greatest hotel. In the before and after comparison, you can see how much taller and grandiose the new Baroness really is, making it harder for you to navigate over the top of the roof potentially. Raising the roof though is what this next part of the update has done, as Monkey Statue 01 has been added to the game. We found this in my previous patch video when it was added to the files, but now it's in-game on Blue Lane. Valve clearly also continue to play around with some of the textures, as the ones near spawn for both of the bases have been adjusted. As the seasons come and go, so do the tree colours in Deadlock it seems. Autumn trees have now arrived. Last patch they arrived in Sandbox and replaced the older green trees, but you can see that's now also happened inside of the regular Deadlock Streets map. However, Valve please fix, as the leaves are still green when shot at. Oh my god, I can't believe how many pumpkins are all over New York. Quite a few designs actually. Valve have been busy making a whole host of various different pumpkins, hell even some of them reminiscent of the size of Yawato's forehead.
Foreheads be damned though, masks will fit. 4 brand new masks to allow you to go trick or treating throughout the Cursed Apple have been added to Deadlock, one of which will be randomly assigned to your hero at any point during a game of Deadlock. Another nice little feature and a very cool way for Valve to have a nod to Halloween masks. It looks really fun how they work with various characters like Mo and Krill sharing just the one mask. Of course, the denizens were also given their new masks, and look particularly ominous when underground before being aggroed. Especially here with the tier 3 camps, you can see just how nefarious they really look. What are they up to with their grubby little arms? The denizens wearing their jack-o'-lanterns is the least of your worries though. You want to be thinking about the potential of werewolves. That's right, werewolves. New sound effects were added, so let's have a listen. Don't worry about the wolves though, worry about the new pickup sound indicator. Have a listen to this gorgeous sound effect. But that's it for your patch notice. Get back out there and enjoy a frightful Halloween night. We'll see you next time, New York. Trick or treat, it's a delight from Valve. Deadlock patch means a new Deadlock patch notice. On the 6th of December, Valve shipped a new major update, with Park Lane receiving its visual overhaul, making it a whole lot more green. 7 fans will be green with envy as well, because you can now move and cast lightning bolts in your tier 3 version of Stormcloud. Alongside that, we've got new hero animations and even new hero models upcoming and added to the game. Lot to get through, so let's get you up to speed with what's changed and where I've been. As always, I'm your host, Jacky. I've been away for a little while now, so unfortunately there hasn't been too many uploads on the channel as I was working the Perfect World major RMRs. Have a quick look at what I was up to.
MP9 shuts down Detour, but he's gone to force it in. It's all simple. 1v2, 13 seconds. If he can deny the plant, they could still win this one. Takes the head off, jumps into the bomb site, flying through the air. It's simple to save it for Falcons.
Of course, being a commentator, I juggle the patch notice videos and my passion for both Counter-Strike and Deadlock as best as possible. But don't worry, for the people asking where I've gone and what's wrong with the channel, we're back and everything's fine. So let's get into your regularly scheduled programming. First and foremost, we've received a new hero straight to Hero Labs. Raven, the Spy Master, with quite a unique and interesting backstory, featuring a relatively incomplete kit that's currently still in development. He's someone to try out with a cool new model. Speaking of which, of course, I teased the fact we've had newer models added inside of this patch, and for Mirage, he's one of them, receiving a bigger visual overhaul, changing his pose, his unique movement as well, with all of his animations now being far more fleshed out. You can see he's really starting to come together and get far more visual fidelity. Alongside that, Abrams also has a work in progress model that can be accessed through the console commands. This is what it looks like, his new upcoming body and upcoming face. A lot more details. It feels like really it's been a drastic overhaul of sort of how the older character looked in terms of the way they want him to look now. Haggard, tired, like a detective where things really have been going wrong. More artistic direction taken potentially from the time period and setting of Deadlock as well, in which you can see the higher quality shoes, higher quality jacket, the difference on the way he's even wearing his trousers, and a new purple tie that matches the back of his coat. A lot of cool visual changes there to Abrams. Seen a bit of a split in the community about how people feel about this one, so let us know in the comments. And of course, you've got the gigantic overhaul that is the meat and potatoes of the update on Park Lane. Park, of course, being Purple Lane. I've seen some people getting confused about that, but now visually you should make that connection one-to-one. On screen, you can see the before and after footage simultaneously of the skyline, the changes with the new trees, the way it feels really far more open and incredibly breathable compared to what was quite a claustrophobic portion of the map on both the York and Purple side of things. I think it's a really nice change. Visually, a brilliant first step. This is where the teleport has been placed as well, by the way. It's been moved, of course, underneath, so it's no longer up top where the new gate is. It's just underneath by the veil. You can even see, though, this sort of more aggressive direction they've been going for, where things are a little bit sharper, feel a little bit more ruthless, kind of lived in. That element is being placed across the board with even the newer models that are coming in. And you can see even a lot of this is placeholders as well. It's not as if it's a final art pass that's gone in now, but it goes to show the level of detail and level of care that's being added into the game to bring it up to what Valve is happy with. You can even hide inside of the new plant pots if you angle your character just right, for some of the smaller heroes at least. And talking small, let's have a look at the details. You can see even the floor texture, the actual bricks, the way the grass looks, the rock structures as well. It's all been changed and has a little bit more visual identity specifically for this lane. I know people have been getting confused as well, saying, but it's Purple Lane, not Green Lane. Very true, but green is a color that does represent leaves, but parks tend to contain a lot of trees and leaves, so it's a catch-22 on that one. We'll see what Valve do with it. Of course, coming from my Caldera video, if you've ever seen that. If not, I recommend you go back and watch that one, actually. You can see where Valve are clearly getting a lot of the ideas for inspiration from previously designed and developed parts of the map that unfortunately they had to leave on the cutting room floor. So this is more how they're now starting to sprinkle some of that in. Like, I'm pretty sure this structure here, if it wasn't this exact model, it was something incredibly similar that was used to be used on Caldera Trooper's version of the map when transitioning from Neon Prime into initial Deadlock, sort of Shadowline era of the game. This was on York Lane. Of course, York Lane back then was the huge park with the water that ran through it, looking very different. Now it's Park, ironically, that becomes a park. You can see the new camels up close here as well. You can get on these. The clipping's actually pretty good. There's a lot you can do to fight from them. That's not it, though. There's smaller details that have been sprinkled in this patch and the previous major patch that dropped whilst I was away commentating Counter-Strike for the major cycle. I love the new owl statue. I think it's really pretty. Obviously, it's got the 3 eyes there, so perspective counts and it throws you off a little bit. But this is what I was talking about with the older additions to visual fidelity. Valve added these sort of flapping textures like drapes, like ripped sort of window frame protectors effectively that would be placed over the flats and apartments around Broadway Lane. Seems like it's only Broadway that's gotten them, but they are quite nice. They flap in the wind. They have different sort of assets here depending on how ripped or how small the windows are. But that's it for your patch notice. These are the things that I chose that were particularly interesting in the 6th of December update. The podcast will be back as well, so don't worry about that. But for now, of course, I've been your host, Jacky, and I will see you next time, New York. Ho ho! The second ever seasonal update for Deadlock has arrived, featuring unlockable skins for the very first time and more visual changes than you could hold in Santa's sack. Let's have a look what Valve have done. Welcome to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and this is the Winter Visual Update, a surprise update that was dropped towards the tail end of 2024, in which Valve have said there will be no more major patches this year, but they'll leave us with this gift. And what a gift it is. We can now see the changing of the seasons represented in-game as we move away from October, and of course the visual updates that came in there, with the autumn trees and the more brown colour, now being replaced with a distinct green chock-a-block with ornaments. Ornaments that have covered all of the Cursed Apple throughout the Deadlock Streets map and of course in Sandbox as well, adding a lot of merry and cheer to what is otherwise a occult playground. Even the weird pollution tree that I assume is a bug survives another patch and now has more Christmas spirit than ever. At this point, maybe just leave it in, Valve. It's actually kind of funny. Moving on from that, you can see that Valve have also added a frosty effect to the main menu, alongside some nice red lights that twinkle. Talking of twinkling lights though, we've got to highlight the Curiosity shop, which looks particularly pretty. Here's the side-by-side comparison, in which you can see someone at Valve clearly had a lot of fun modeling this visual overhaul for the 2024 holiday season. Tons of details on this one, including a card that shows off a naughty and nice list. Who's on the naughty list? Only one name. Lash, of course. Makes sense. He's a bit of a Scrooge, isn't he? Moving on from that, there is presents, so it's not just Cole, don't worry. Much like the Halloween seasonal update, where Valve established the idea of changing the denizens, the breakables, the heroes, they've done it again with this update, with all of the breakable boxes being replaced with various models for presents. Green, red, and blue, with different sound effects. Outside of that, zip lines have also been given a bit of Christmas cheer. As you can see, they've added some nice decorations to them. 4 unique reefs that will be added to each and every one of these signs, so you can see them all throughout the streets of New York when zipping up and down to murder all over the city. Of course, they wouldn't forget about the denizens. Jungle camps have been visually updated again as per the last seasonal update, in which of course they were given a scary sort of pumpkin theme. This time around they are snowmen. That's what Valve have gone for. There's even radio lines that allude to the fact that you might want to be wary of the snowmen that play from the New York Oracle now. You can see the before and after comparison here of one of the jungle camps, of just how much they've changed. I particularly love their long, odd, creepy noses alongside their tiny hats, especially when they're idle. They look quite funny. You can see here with the tier 3 denizens that they actually look quite cute, so that's a fun one. Here's the biggest change though, holiday cheer skins. New skins that are unlockable for every character. Have a listen and a look.
Last seen wearing a Santa hat. Reports that he's looking for eggnog have not been substantiated. In today's human interest story, we'll cover Bebop, the plucky scrap golem in an adorable Santa hat. This just in. Professor Dynamo rang in the holiday season with style. Is Grey Talon looking to give the gift of murder this holiday season? Our sources say yes, hoping to soften their image. The OSIC Sandman division released a holiday calendar this year. It only made them more terrifying. A beloved bartender at Jezebel's has traded in his fedora for a Santa hat. The savior of Spanish Harlem continues to melt New York's heart as she dispenses vigilante justice dressed for the holidays. Are ice whites secretly servants of Santa? The New York Oracle investigates. Breaking news. Lady Geist has been possessed. Not by Oathkeeper, but by the holiday spirit. Is Lash the meanest Santa of all time? Read the New York Oracle to find out. Presumably walking home drunk after a Fairfax Industry holiday party, notorious misanthrope Maggie McGinnis has been seen looking festive. Are the Jinn embracing Western holidays? Mirage's latest headgear says maybe. A New York City mole man was spotted with a very shiny nose. Could Santa have a new leader for his sleigh team? Paradox has seemingly stole a Santa hat in what appears to be a low-stakes, yet surprisingly meaningful crime. A street urchin in a Santa hat is making waves as they spread holiday cheer throughout New York. This just in, the individual known only as Seven has found a way to make the holiday season more terrifying. A handsome son of a bitch in a Santa hat has been seen throwing knives in Midtown. Could it be Shiv? Yes, it's Shiv. Is Vindicta executing individuals with alarming frequency? Yes. Are people strangely okay with it because she's dressed as a murderous elf? Absolutely. New York has been charmed by a pile of goo that embodies the holiday season. Once, Warden was dressed as a cop. Now he's dressed as a cop with a Santa hat. What will he look like next? The New York Oracle digs into this ever-evolving and seemingly unending mystery. Is Wraith wearing a Santa hat because she lost a bet? Or is she full of holiday cheer? Breaking news. Yamato was seen wearing a Santa hat. Somehow, this makes her scarier than normal.
As I alluded to, there's tons of new voice lines for the New York Oracle as well. So let's have a listen.
Happy holidays from your friends at the New York Oracle. Need a gift for someone special? Then get them a box of Twin Omen cigars. That's Twin Omen cigars. a proud sponsor of the New York Oracle, protecting your family from Krampus. Are gingerbread wards enough? This month, Maximilian Fairfax made headlines after donating a small fortune to New York orphanages. When asked about his generous act, the CEO of Fairfax Industries replied, "No one should be without family on the holidays. Rockefeller Center is teeming with skaters as the holiday season is in full swing. The Yeti of the Yukon Lumberjack Show has thrilled Canadian audiences for years. Will they find the same success as they begin their first U.S. tour this winter? The holidays are upon us. If you're naughty, beware." The OSIC has issued a statement reminding citizens that North Pole expeditions are illegal without a permit. The Knickerbockers' losing streak continues after a humiliating defeat to the Celtics. In unrelated news, no one likes the Celtics. Looking to make this holiday season more magical? Curse your enemies! The editorial staff at the New York Oracle would like to issue a formal apology for a recent headline that encouraged hexes for the holidays. New York anxiously awaits the arrival of Kris Kringle. Have you been a good boy or girl this year? The tree is lit, the rockets are kicking, and magic is in the air. It's holiday time in New York. A controversial department store window display left some parents outraged. For more on this story, pick up your copy of the New York Oracle today. The Ixian War tops this year's list of topics most likely to start a fight at holiday dinners. The Oracle's own Allie Kincaid teases that her next interview will be electrifying. Snowmen, don't mess with them. Just in case. Planning on going caroling this year? This week's edition of the New York Oracle offers useful tips on how to raise spirits, but not raise spirits. This Thursday, Jezebel's Billiard Hall is offering free hot chocolate with every game of pool. Have you been visited by 3 ghosts in the middle of the night? If so, we'd love to hear about it. Officials have confirmed that the calamity at last week's tree lighting festival was a result of a giant rat chewing on a junction box. The New York Municipal Coven is looking for volunteers to spend time with stray familiars in their Soho shelter. Cadence and the Requiem Boys holiday show sold out in record time. Will the Ixian singer add a second date? Only time will tell. The New York Oracle wants to wish you and your loved ones a safe maelstrom and a joyous winter. Santa, wonderful? Or amazing. This holiday season, the Oracle would like to remind readers not to be like Jacob Lash.
More new audio, this time it's music. Let's have a listen to the Christmas remixes of the shop music. Even the main menu has been given a Christmas remix. Have a listen to this bad boy. "10 out of 10 ambience, unlockable skins, visual changes, all this and more bundled into an update we shouldn't have even got. Shout out to Valve on this one. Enjoy the Christmas break. Have a good time. We'll see you back with more content, more updates, and so much more for Deadlock into 2025. Keep it locked here at Dead Air. More videos coming very soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Jacky Esports. More patch notice every time there's an update. It's not a Vindicta-shaped present under the Christmas tree. In fact, it's a nerf, and a whole bunch of them. Welcome back to Patch Notice. I'm your host, Jacky, and we're going to be dissecting the December 21st update for Deadlock. Although Valve are out of the office and have said there'll be no more major or visual updates for the end of this year, they're still tweaking Deadlock and applying balance patches. This one, though, is only balancing us in one way, and that's towards reductions and nerfs. Let's see what they've gotten up to, as Vindicta is up first. Her Assassinate has been massively reduced in terms of base damage and its bonus damage, so it's harder to get those assassination snipes off to finish low HP targets, maybe moving you more in the direction of using Assassinate to deal chip damage rather than just killing your opponents outright. Infernus has also received a nerf, a weirdly worded one inside of the patch notes that would lead you to believe potentially it's been buffed, when in reality it's the cooldown on his flame walk that's just been increased by a few seconds, meaning you've got more downtime between burning things down. Mirage has also received a nerf as well. His fire scarabs in tier 2 have been reduced from having 10% bullet resist to only -8% bullet resist, so DPS output output there going to be a little bit worse for Mirage going into the end of this year. Warden was also nerfed, and this is actually quite a big one in reality for Warden players, as his bullet growth has been reduced from 0.94 to just 0.9. However, Last Stand has had a massive reduction in terms of damage output. It now does 40% less damage to objectives, so you won't be able to rip your way through buildings willy-nilly, making his ultimate far more useful for PvP rather than PvE when it comes to destroying Guardians or towers. Yamato has also been nerfed, with Shadow Transformation receiving some adjustments, as we've seen in a lot of the recent updates for Deadlock. That's going to be Bullet and Spirit Resist reduced from 45% to just 40%, and Shadow Transformation's Tier 3 has been increased from 15% to 20% Resist. So a bit of a blurse there, a buff and a nerf all in one. Let's move on to the item changes then. For Knockdown, the stun has been reduced to 0.5 seconds for players on the ground. Veil Walker has been massively changed again, now being a tier 4 with various buffs attributed to that, and the DPS output of Alchemical Fire has gone down from 55 to only 50. Up next, they've also changed the overall prices of tier 4 items as well. You can see on screen now, this is the tier 4 shopping list pre-patch, where things cost 6.2k for an item of that caliber. Now that's only going to cost you 6 grand for any of those same items. Of course, with Val Walker also moving in to this category as well. It's been all over the shop. It started off as a weapon item way back towards June and then has been moving ever since. Tick Gold has also been changed. This is now slightly increased alongside bug fixes for Arcane Surge, where people were having issues with it. Shield duration is an interesting one though, as it will take longer now for you to begin regenerating your shield outside of combat, with quite a hefty nerf on that one. Interesting tweaks all round though for this update. An unexpected patch. Get back out there, enjoy your period over the holidays, and we'll see you back on the Cursed Apple streets soon.